Hello and welcome to the National Sports Network. Today I'm joined by my guest Chase Wazowski. Today we're going to be talking about the trade history in the NBA in the past year.
Thank you for having me, Bazile. This year of NBA trades have been ridiculous.
In a 5-team trade deal, Jimmy Butler is sent to the Warriors. Let's take a look at the Jimmy Butler graphic. On the season, Jimmy Butler is averaging 21 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists compared to Andrew Wiggins, 18 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. With this trade, do you think that he can finally make a push to the playoffs?
No, I think that they were better with Jimmy Butler. I know that Jimmy Butler didn't want to be there, but even then they still shouldn't have let him go or try to get him for someone better than Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is a good player, but I don't think he's going to be enough to get the Heat to the playoffs because you got Bam Adebayo, who's been dealing with injury problems, and that's really your whole team right there. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, with me, even with the injury problems of Bam Adebayo, I think as long as he is healthy and Andrew Wiggins still being a perennial all-star, I think with his offense, the combine of that duo and Tyler Hero taking a step up, I think they might be able to get it done. And do you think Steph and Jimmy Butler can get it done for the Warriors?
I think the Warriors are looking really, really good this year, although there's been very good teams in the West. The Thunder are going to be pretty much impossible to beat in a 7-game series, especially if the Thunder have home court advantage, which they probably will for the entire playoffs. I don't think there's any way that they're going to lose. I think that they will make it to the NBA championship. Although the Warriors, I think, are really good. I think they could get to either the conference semifinals or the conference finals. I just don't think they have enough to get it to the NBA finals.
I think, me personally, I think Steph and Jimmy can, I think at most they're going to be a first-round exit. I think, me personally, they're not better than the Thunder. They're not better than the Nuggets. They're not better than the Lakers. Then there's still a couple of other teams, and depending on that, some matchups, they might not be able to get it done, especially if they go through one of those 3 teams. Only team I can see them going against that would probably come out and win is the Clippers or any team through 7th or 8th seed.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, they probably might lose first round. It just depends. They could end up playing a team like the Thunder, or they could even end up getting home court advantage if they play that well at the end of the season.
Yeah. And we interviewed some people on this topic. Let's see what they have to say.
I think it puts them in a lack of defense, but it puts them in a better position in offense and getting Steph Curry the ball.
Luka Doncic to LA, Anthony Davis to Dallas in a stunning trade. Let's look at the Luka Doncic graphic. Luka Doncic averaging 29 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists on the season compared to Anthony Davis, 26 points per game, 14 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Who won the trade and why?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, even though some people say otherwise. I think the Lakers definitely won this trade. I mean, the Mavericks are giving up their franchise player, their player who pretty much single-handedly, alongside Kyrie Irving, of course, took them to the NBA championship last year, and it's not going to be possible for a few years now. And now the Lakers, who already have LeBron James, are going to add Luka Doncic to it, and it's just going to make for an even more star-studded offense.
For me personally, I think Lakers still won this trade, but with AD being gone, their defensive presence, the defense definitely goes down for the Lakers, and I'm not sure what they're going to do to make up for it. Defensively, right now, they're looking like one of the best teams in the league, but in the long run, going against any big teams like the Nuggets, I think it'll be a lot worse for them. They'll definitely get punished on the interior. And then with Kyrie injured, what does this mean for the Mavericks?
It means a lot. Kyrie Irving was kind of going to be that guy now alongside Anthony Davis since Luka Doncic was gone. And now with Kyrie Irving being injured, it's going to be really, really hard for the Mavericks to start winning games. And recently they only had 7 players warming up for one of their games. And injury crisis is going to be a big problem for them, especially when you don't have that superstar that's going to be able to carry your team like they used to have with Luka Doncic. And he was the reason that the Mavericks won a lot of games, which they really shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's honestly the same. They maybe have 2 future players that could actually be good with Max Christie and not even Derek Lively, and that's it. And even them, Derek Lively's battling a lot of injury problems very early in his career, and Max Christie's looking like he could burst into an all-star in the next couple of years. But that's one player. With Kyrie Irving being hurt, I think his career definitely got shortened, maybe 3 more years max. Same thing with Anthony Davis. I think he has 4 more years left in the tank.
Yeah.
And being even just a solid player.
Yeah, I don't think the Mavericks are going to have even much of a future as it is. You know, Kyrie Irving's getting older. Anthony Davis is getting older. You know, you still got Max Christie and all them, but I don't think that's going to be enough to make them a solid playoff team.
Yeah. We interviewed some people on this topic. Let's see what they have to say.
Offensively, they're definitely like the best team in the NBA right now because Luka Doncic's game IQ is just too high. But defensively, they still got some time to go.
Into the Kings in a 3-team trade. Let's take a look at the Zach LaVine graphic. De'Aaron Fox is averaging 25 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists on the season, compared to Zach LaVine's 24 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Do you think the Spurs are a top 10 team in the West? Why or why not?
I think they are, because I've always been a fan of De'Aaron Fox ever since he got drafted into Sacramento. And Wembanyama is Wembanyama, so you know he's going to be good. And they're going to have a pretty good pick next year, and they already have a pretty decent team that they're going to build around. And I think with those two superstars, De'Aaron Fox and Wembanyama, you can get 1 or 2 more guys around them that'll really help the team out. And I think that they'd be a potential playoff team.
I think, honestly, right now, they're already a top 10 team in the West. Not top 10, around top 12 right now. I think in the next year, maybe even 2, they'll definitely be a top 5 team in the West. With Wembanyama already taking a jump in his sophomore season, averaging almost 24 points per game and like 14 rebounds. With De'Aaron Fox added to that addition, they're both really young. They have a solid team already. They're already looking like they were going to make the playoffs until Wemby got hurt. I think next year, they'll definitely be one of the best teams. And with this trade, how good will Wemby be with De'Aaron?
I think Wembanyama will be probably the best he could be in his career. I don't think he's really going to get a better point guard than De'Aaron Fox around them at the Spurs. I don't think the Spurs will sign anyone else now, apart from him, that's like at that caliber. And De'Aaron Fox is a very, very good player. And what I like about him most is his playmaking ability. Even when he was that guy on the Kings, he was still dishing the ball out and being able to facilitate. And I think Wembanyama is just going to be able to build off that. You know, a lot of 1-2s, pick and rolls,
A lot of threats.
a lot of points. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to make them one of the best. And then we interviewed some people on this topic. Let's see what they have to say.
I think it will be good because he might help Wembanyama get more buckets. Their point guard wasn't really that good. I think it will help out.
Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks. Let's take a look at the CAD graphic. Karl Anthony Towns is averaging 25 points per game, 13 rebounds on 44% from 3 on the season, compared to Julius Randle averaging 24 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. With this trade, is the Timberwolves' future bright?
Yes, they're already a good team as it is, having Anthony Edwards, and last year having Karl Anthony Towns. Picking up Julius Randle, it's a good move. I think Karl Anthony Towns is a better player, though, but they also did get Dante DiVincenzo, who's very, very good. And I think that the Timberwolves have always been a pretty good team in the league, and they'll definitely be a playoff team. And I think that they won't make a push this year, but definitely for the upcoming years because they have some young players. And Anthony Edwards, arguably a top 5 player in the league, very, very young. So he's going to be the face of the franchise for a couple years.
Honestly, me personally, I don't think they'll be able to make the playoffs this year. And if they do, they're definitely going to be a first-round exit. Julius Randle has been battling injuries his whole career, and it's looking like it's getting there. I don't think he's going to be able to last or play as good as he was on the Knicks for the next couple of years. And same thing for Dante DiVincenzo. He's reaching there. He's around 28 maybe, going to 30. He's still a solid role player, but there's going to be years where he's not going to be as good. Plus, with Mike Conley, their point guard, being old already, I don't think the Timberwolves can make that much of a push in the next couple of years.
I understand what you're saying. I think that they still will make the playoffs. Even if they do lose first round, I think they'll make it. And I think the next couple of years they actually will be good. I know Julius Randle has had injury problems, but I really think that the Timberwolves can actually get it done. They have Rob Dillingham coming out of Kentucky, first year in the league. And Mike Conley, as we all know, is old. So once Rob Dillingham starts to get more minutes, I think that he'll solidify himself as a very good player, and if not, a superstar.
I understand that. And then with this, do you think the Knicks are a top 5 team in the NBA?
I'm going to say no, although I think it's close. I think if you go top 5 in the league, you have to go Cavaliers, Celtics, Nuggets, Thunder, and then you can insert whatever team you want in that 5th spot, either the Bucks, or you could put really anyone else in that playoff hunt. I don't think the Knicks are good enough on the court. I think on paper they're definitely a top 5 team, and obviously their fan base and everyone loves the Knicks, but I don't think that they are a top 5 team as of now, just with the way they've been playing.
Yeah, honestly, they have one of the best teams on paper. Mikal Bridges was an amazing player last year. With this trade, I thought they were going to be one of the best. Plus with Karl Anthony Towns, but at the start of the season, they were really high. And for the past 20 games, they lost 10 out of, I think, close to 10 out of 20. And against top 4 teams or top 2 seeded teams in the West and East, they're 0-10 against them. So that really shows that. And Bucks trade Chris Middleton to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma. Let's take a look at the Kyle Kuzma graphic. Chris Middleton's averaging 13 points per game, 3 rebounds on 41% from the three-point line. Kyle Kuzma's averaging 16 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. With this trade, what are the Wizards going to do with Middleton? Do they get any better with this trade?
I mean, I think, of course, they get better. I think if you go player for player, Chris Middleton is better than Kyle Kuzma. But the Wizards, arguably the worst team in the league, I think having someone like Chris Middleton as your superstar definitely isn't a good look. Chris Middleton is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's getting older, and I don't think he's one of the top players. I'm pretty sure the lowest winning team in the league right now, and I don't think they'll really be able to do much. I think they'll win a couple more games, but I still don't see them getting anywhere near a playoff spot, and I think that at this point they should just go for the number 1 pick, look to rebuild.
Honestly, yeah. I don't know what this trade was for. They already were a kind of old, youngish team, very 50-50 with their players. Didn't really have a future outside of Alexander Sarr. And even him, they were supposed to be one of the best players in the draft. And he honestly hasn't been really doing that much. And with this trade, I don't understand what they're doing. They traded Chris Middleton. They traded Kyle Kuzma, their perennial all-star, for Chris Middleton, who honestly is a solid player, but is really old and was battling injuries. And they make and with this trade, are the Bucks a top 3 team in the East?
I think that they're top 5 for sure. Top 3 can be debatable, however you want to say it. Cavaliers and Celtics are always going to be the top 2 for the remainder of the season, of course. And I think that 3 spot can really go to anyone. Could go to the Knicks, could go to the Bucks, can go to a bunch of other teams. I'm going to say that the Bucks are a top 3 team in the East, although I can understand you personally if you said that they weren't. I think that they're definitely top 5, and I think that they're a really good team that could make a playoff run. But I don't think that they're obviously number 1 or 2, or I don't think they'll get to the NBA championship. But I definitely think that they're a top 5, if not top 3 team in the East.
Yeah, I get that. Honestly, the Knicks are still up there to go head to toe with them. Knicks are still one of the better teams in the East, even with their off nights. And going against the Bucks, who have still been good in the past couple of games, honestly, winning a lot. I still think I would still take the Cavs. I would still take the Celtics. And on some days, I would take the Knicks over them. They're definitely top 3 or 4, maybe sometimes even 5 team in the East. But at lowest, I think that's where they go.
I mean, yeah, having Giannis on your team is obviously going to be a big factor in making them win. I think that top 3 is honestly really reasonable. I think if they played the Knicks in a 7-game series, I think I would take the Bucks out of 7. I think they would win in 7, but I don't think either of them will make it to the NBA championship or even the conference finals. So I don't really think it matters anyway.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to this segment of the National Sports Network. And coming up next is Nick Chilinsky and Tyler Sullivan talking about March Madness and the top teams for the number 1 seed.
Welcome back to NSN, where today we'll be talking with Chase Rzuski and me, myself, Nick Chilinsky. And our first topic is number 1 seeds on the March Madness bracket. Chase, what are your thoughts, and who do you think is going to get the number 1 seed?
I think the best overall team in the country right now has got to be Auburn. If they look at their record, the teams they beat, and their players, Janiah Broome, front runner for National Player of the Year, averaging 20 points. I don't think he'll be as big of a dominance in the NBA, but I think he's a very good player. And talking about good players, freshman 6-man Taha Pettiford, coming out of New Jersey, very, very good, and you should expect him to be the player of the future for Auburn, and you should expect them to be a very highly ranked team for the years to come.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but what do you think about Duke? Because they're a young, talented team, and do you think they have a chance of getting the number 1 seed?
Yeah, so my number 1 seeds are as followed: Auburn, Duke, Florida, and then it's a toss-up from there. I'm going to say Houston. I think Duke is probably the second best team in the country right now. If not, you could put Florida there. Duke did beat Auburn, one of the 3 or 4 teams that actually did. And having someone like Cooper Flagg, who's also a competitor for National Player of the Year, is a great boost to the team.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And can we please get the top teams graphic? So here we can see all of the teams that are competing for the number 1 seeds. And Chase, who do you think in this picture here will get the number 1 seed?
Well, the number 1 overall seed I think would be Auburn, but I think those 4 number 1 seeds, because you have the East, Midwest, West, and South, would have to be Auburn, Florida, Houston, And for the fourth one, I would go Duke.
Nice. So next we're going to talk about the bubble teams and who might not make it. So I think that Texas needs to keep winning to stay into the tournament. And if they don't, they might get eliminated. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they have been on the bubble for a couple weeks now. And with conference tournaments coming up, I think the first game is either today, tomorrow, or the day after that. And I think Texas has to win at least 2 or 3 to really solidify themselves because they are in a really tough conference in the SEC. And if they just win a couple games, I think they'll be able to get in as one of the last 4.
Mm-hmm. Can we get the bubble teams graphic, please? So here we can see who might not make it. And Indiana is close to making it, but they need to play really well in their last couple games to secure a spot. What do you think about that, Chase?
Yeah, so I think Indiana will end up making it. On this graphic, I think almost all of them can make it. I think Nebraska are not a lock, but they have really fell off. I think they'll have to win a couple more games, and I think they can do it, especially into the tournament. And I think Indiana just has to win 1 game. I'm pretty sure they're playing Oregon, actually, in the 9-8 matchup in the Big Ten. And I think if they take care of business there, I think they'll be in. I think Texas will also be in. And Wake Forest and Pitt, I think you could put UNC even in that conversation. I think only one of them will make it. It just depends who ends up winning that game, their first game in the ACC tournament.
Yeah. And you can see how I feel about this year's March Madness. And we actually asked a couple of people about their thoughts. And
I think UConn might be able to win it this year, even though they don't look nowhere near as good as they did last year. The past 2 years, they've still been a really strong team with all the talent they have over there and the offense, defense. I think they might be able to win it all.
See, as much as I would like to say St. John's, because I'm a Johnny's fan, and they've actually been good now, it's going to be Auburn. Janai Broome is undoubtedly the best player in college basketball, and there's no way they're going to lose.
now we're going to talk about some of the teams that might need to change their coaches. So I saw that Villanova has struggled this year without their former coach, Jay Wright. And what do you think about that?
I think if we were talking from about even a month ago or even as to a couple weeks ago, I would say yes, they need to get rid of their new coach. But I don't think so. For now, the way they turned it around, they're probably closer to a lock than they are a bubble team, at least in my opinion. I know a lot of people would disagree, but I think they have a lot of good wins. They did have a win against St. John's, who are in the top 10 in the country right now, so that's a really, really good win. And led by Eric Dixon, who's probably the best center in college basketball right now. I think that if they make the tournament, I think they could shock some teams and even make a run towards the Sweet 16 or some team, like, they can make the Elite Eight, I think.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but what do you think about North Carolina? Because they've had a really rough season, but they need to continue. If they continue their struggle, because there might be some pressure on the coach. So what do you think about that?
I don't really think there'll be pressure on the coach. I know they were really high ranked to begin with, and I know they have RJ Davis, who will be an NBA player, but Hubert Davis has been an amazing coach the past couple of years. North Carolina have gone really far in the tournament, even as to a couple of years ago, make it to the national championship. They were a 1 seed last year, and they don't have some of the players that they had before. Armando Bacot is probably the biggest name that's not there anymore, but I think RJ Davis is a really good player, and I think that UNC, even having a bad season, are still on the bubble and could potentially make it, and I think if they do make it, they might get 1 or 2 wins, and it might surprise people.
Yeah. Can I get the coach changes graphic, please? So here we could see the teams that might have to make changes with their coaches, and yeah. Next, we're going to talk about the conference changes and how it's affecting the tournament. So Chase, I see here in the Big 12, they're growing with new teams joining, and this will make the conference even more competitive and help them get more teams in the tournament. How do you feel on that?
Yeah, so the new format that they're playing with, they have more teams in there, meaning some higher-ranked teams that were better in the regular season conference games are going to have buys, giving them a better chance of making it to the tournament by winning the conference. And it's also allowing some underdog teams to end up getting wins and potentially moving on. But it just puts a lot more emphasis on the regular season and how good they can actually be there. Because if you're one of the number 1 seeds or like a number 2 seed in your conference, you only have to win maybe 2 or 3 games max in some of these bigger conferences to end up winning the whole tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, can we get the conference changes graphic, please? We can see here all of the conferences that might have to make changes, and My thoughts on Big Ten, because they're expanding, and it could mean there's more teams to make the tournament. And the conference is getting much stronger. What do you think about that, Chase?
Yes, so the Big Ten is definitely a top 3 conference in college basketball. I think the SEC, ACC, and Big Ten are definitely there. And I think the Big East actually is in the top 3 instead of maybe even the SEC. It's really a toss-up because there's a lot of good conferences. I think the Big East is probably better than the Big 12, but the Big 10 is a top 2, top 3 conference, and adding more teams is just going to make it more competitive. And I think there should be a lot of Big 10 teams in as it is, because there's mid-majors who make it to the tournament and don't end up playing well at all, and they end up losing the first round. So I think putting those more bigger teams, those more Big 10 teams, giving more teams chances to make the tournament is a lot better. As you can see, like Indiana, a team who's on the bubble, has to win one game, and I think they're in, and they're a 9 seed in their conference. So that just really shows how competitive these conferences are.
Yeah, I really do agree with you there. They're very competitive. And what about the mid-major teams that like could surprise a bunch of people? So like I saw that St. Mary's is focusing on their defense and smart shooting. They can compete with bigger programs, and even if they're not that flashy. What do you think on that?
Yeah, so St. Mary's is probably one of the only teams in the Mountain West that people care about. You know, you got them and Gonzaga. St. Mary's has always been ranked around like a 5 or 6 seed in the tournament these past few years, and they have played decently well, but I'm not too big on them. As always, they do have a pretty easy schedule, especially in conference play. But my personal favorite mid-major is Drake. They just got pretty much a whole new program, and last year they ended up making it to the tournament, and I'm just a big fan of Drake. They have one of the best records in college basketball. The teams they play against, yeah, you could say they aren't that good, but I just really like Drake, and I don't think St. Mary's will do very well, to be honest.
Yeah, on Drake, I think they're very experienced and they play really well in tough games. They could surprise some people in the tournament, but can I get the surprising teams graphic, please? Here we could see all the teams that may surprise people, and yeah. What do you think about that, Chase?
Yeah, so GCU I was very big on. I actually took them to go to the Sweet 16 last year. They didn't make it there, but they won their first round game, and I was very impressed watching them play. I actually did meet a lot of players on their team when I was in Arizona, and I just love everything about GCU. It's a really good school, and I think that they play really well, and they're always in the tournament, and I think that they're usually underseeded. I think they can be seeded even a little bit higher. I just really like the way they play.
Mm-hmm. We also had a chance to get people's thoughts on the teams that could surprise people.
I think Vanderbilt will have a Cinderella story this year. You know, some of the teams they went against, they've had really strong wins. They may have not looked amazing this whole year, but you never know. Anything could happen.
Yeah, I think there will be a couple. My favorite is probably going to be Drake. Drake had most players come from D2, and they had their new coach come. I'm not sure which school it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they have less than 7 losses on the season as of now, and they're looking really good, and I think they could surprise some teams come March.
Okay, welcome back. So don't leave now. There's more coming up in NSN with Chase and Tyler Sullivan talking about the Lakers.
Hi, welcome back to NSN. Me and Chase will be talking about the Lakers today. Chase, as you know, the Lakers are one of the most famous teams in history.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think makes them the most famous team in history?
I think it has to do with the amount of amazing players they have. Jerry West is the outline of the NBA logo, and you have all these great players. Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, and that's just brushing the surface. You have so much more, and I think combined with the talent that they've had over the years, among also the rings that they had, I think it's easy to say whether they're a top 3, if not top 1 franchise in NBA. The only team I think you could say that arguably is better is the Boston Celtics, but even then I think it's a toss-up. What do you think?
Chase, I completely agree with you. I mean, Anthony Davis just got traded away, so, I mean, they don't have much of a center, not more defense, but they did get Luka in a blockbuster trade. I don't think that deal was fair at all, personally. I think LeBron and Luka are going to run the show. Do you think Anthony Davis leaving will jeopardize the Lakers' playoff run as they're in desperate need of a center?
Yes, I do actually, because even though you have all this offensive talent with LeBron and Luka, who Luka just led the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA championship, although they didn't end up winning, it's still very impressive to see what he did, especially with the team he had. I think Anthony Davis was arguably the best Laker on the team at that point before the trade. I think he was playing better than LeBron. You know, his defensive skills, even his offensive skills too just makes him one of the best players in the league. And the Lakers don't have a lot of defense as it is, and Anthony Davis was kind of the guy on defense, and now getting rid of him and replacing him with the guy that isn't a very good defender is going to make some trouble for the Lakers, although their offense is really good. Anthony Davis was their big man also, so the Lakers are going to need a center.
That's a very strong statement talking about how Anthony Davis was the best player on the team at the time when they had LeBron. We asked a couple other people the same question. Let's go to the Anthony Davis interviews.
Yes, I think so, because LeBron James will have to play as more of a big man, although he's used to and is more comfortable handling the ball as more of a guard. But since Anthony Davis, the current center, is gone, LeBron James is going to have to fill that role.
I don't. I think it'll affect LeBron James' play style to an extent, maybe helping him like pass the ball around, allowing the Lakers to be a lot more offensively powered with maybe a worse defense, but with LeBron being able to put up a lot more numbers, the two of them might be able to work it out with
3-4 years, because he is one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. I do think he's the greatest, and I think he really shows that with his longevity.
As we know, Bronny James hasn't had multiple appearances besides the G League. Let's do a comparison to the Bron/Bronny graphic. So as you could see, LeBron has higher average in everything than Bronny. Although Bronny has only played a couple games, you could see this isn't very well spot for Bronny.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise. If you look at LeBron, over these, he played 20-plus years, to Bronny, who's probably played maybe 10 games in total. That's including the G League. So there's not really a surprise there. And LeBron is the greatest player of all time. So it's kind of unfair to compare him. It's unfair to compare Bronny to LeBron. But LeBron is his dad, so obviously you would expect a comparison there. I do think, though, Bronny could become a good player in the league. I don't think he'll get even close to LeBron's legacy, but I think with a couple more years, if he keeps working hard and keeps training and keeps playing those G League games, because getting more reps is going to make you better, I think that LeBron and Bronny could both be starting for the Lakers.
I agree. Let's switch up the topic and talk about the starting five here. We have LeBron averaging around 25 points per game. Luka Doncic is a superstar known for scoring, passing, and clutch play. D'Angelo Russell is a key scorer and playmaker, providing three-point shooting. Austin Reeves brings energy to the defense and is a solid shooter off the bench. Roy Hachimura is an important role player, offering size and scoring. He is technically their center right now at 6'8", which is not the best position to be in. How do you feel about these takes?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking, where's the big man? There is none. You have a couple guards, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and LeBron. You could actually consider him a guard, too, with the way he plays. And Luka Doncic is also obviously a guard. So you kind of have a small ball lineup, and I don't think it's really going to work out for them toward the end of the season, although they have been playing great. They actually lost to the Nets, though, but that was LeBron wasn't playing. And that was kind of a sign to show that the Lakers do need a couple big mans, because Rui Hachimura can't do it all himself. He's only 6'8", and if he's going to have to go up against guys in the Western Conference like Nikola Jokic, it's not going to end well.
All right, let's take it back to LeBron and Luka here. They're obviously a power duo, and they've been playing very well together. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, kind of as I just said, they actually have been playing really, really well. They lost their first game where LeBron wasn't there, but I think it's a sign that Luka and LeBron have just been building up that chemistry. And if you look at the scores from the games, they're really high-scoring games. LeBron and Luka are obviously going to be able to score. D'Angelo Russell always been able to score. He's been a long-time good player in the league. I just think defensively they're weak, but if they can keep outscoring as they've been doing, just keep getting those high number of points, I think they'll just keep winning games.
I agree with that, Chase. Can we get the LeBron-Luka graphic, please? As you could see, they're not too far off in the averages per game, as LeBron having most better stats than Luka, but Luka's only been a couple games on the Lakers, so.
Yeah, I mean, if both players are averaging 20 plus points, you're obviously going to win games. That's just two players averaging their 40 at least. And, LeBron and Luka can both go off for some 40-point games, 30-point games. And D'Angelo Russell himself could always end up getting 20. So it's just a matter of time before you see they're going to be scoring a lot, but they're going to also be giving up a lot of points, and that could either hurt them or really help them.
As you could probably tell by now, Reeves and Hashimura are probably the best two defensive players on the team. I mean, they don't have much of a defense with their tallest player around 6'10", 6'8", in that range. What are your thoughts on the defense there?
Yeah, Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves being their top two defensive players really doesn't say much about their defensive ability because, don't get me wrong, they're both great players. They're not known for their defense. Austin Reeves, a knockdown shooter, and Rui Hachimura wants to play in a 3 or a 4, not being able to play as a center. He can't do it. He's not big enough. So if you're relying on him for all of your defensive plays, you're not going to be able to do much. Even though LeBron can do it all, I think even he is not one of the best defenders on that team because I don't think he is a really good defender. It just comes down to how many points can they score compared to how many points they give up.
I completely agree with that, Chase. Can we get the Reeves and Rui graphic, please? As you could see, for two strongly defensive players on the Lakers, their defensive stats are not that well, not as well as their offensive stats. What are your thoughts on that, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's an offensively known team at this point, the Lakers, even though, you used to have Anthony Davis, who would be just kind of your guy on defense. He wouldn't need anyone else because he's been consistently in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year every single year, at least for the past, 5 years. And now Austin Reeves and Rui, both of their stats aren't good. And I think it's too early to tell right now because it's kind of like a new team now since you got rid of Anthony Davis. But from what I've seen so far, I don't like them defensively. I think once you get into the playoffs, you'll play a team like the Nuggets. And even if they make it to the championship, potentially a team like the Bucks or the Cavs. And, what makes them so good is they have size. Jared Allen is 7'1", I'm pretty sure. And Giannis is Giannis. So you don't need to say anything else about that. I don't think they'll be able to guard him. And I think the Lakers won't, honestly. I don't think they'll get past the first round of the playoffs because of their lack of defensive ability.
I mean, I can't argue with that. They're a very offensive-heavy team. They can't really do much on the defensive side. All right, let's switch the topic here and move over to the season performances so far. As we know, the Lakers have been struggling with injuries, especially before trading Anthony Davis. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, I mean, the most important part, or one of the most important parts to a team to make a championship run is having depth. That's what we have to see constantly because there's always going to be players that are getting injured. Injury is just a part of the sport. Having players that are normally getting injured isn't a good thing for you, even if those players are great. But I think that the crisis that the Lakers have had going on with their injuries will end up getting better, but I don't think it'll be good enough. If you look at a team like the Cavs or the Celtics or the Bucks or the Thunder, one of the factors that separate them is they have 10 to 12 guys always that are consistently going to be able to play at an NBA level. But when you have someone that's on the roster, like Bronny, able to fill in a spot, you're not going to be able to win much games because it's in your depth. He's in the G League right now, but that just takes up a spot from someone else who deserves it just to be in the organization. I think you need a lot more depth than that because the Lakers have been getting injured, and if you have just two superstars, if one of them goes down, you're either left with LeBron or Luka trying to carry that team, and there's no defense as it is, and one player can only do so much.
That is completely true. They have both of them right now, so they're a heavy, strong team with two great players. But if one of them goes down, only one great player can't carry the team. Mm-hmm. As you could see after the Luka trade, the Lakers are trying to make a late-season push for a better playoff positioning. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think all teams really are trying to do the exact same thing, except, you got teams like the Wizards that are probably just tanking for the first pick. I think that the Lakers will not be able to get a first-round home spot because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think that the Thunder and the Nuggets are automatically locked for that. And after that, it can really go to whoever you want to put there, but I don't think the Lakers will be able to do it. The Warriors have been looking really good after the trade with Jimmy Butler. I just don't think the Lakers have the defense to get it done, and I think they will be beaten in the first round because if you get put against a team like the Thunder or the Nuggets, one of those teams will be able to make you punish for not having a good defensive.
The Lakers are looking at a 2 seed right now, which isn't bad for them. if they verse a worse team, maybe they're lacking defense. They could make it past the first round. But if they drop to that 3 or 4 seed and have to play a little bit of a better team, I'm not sure if they'll be able to make it past the first round.
Yeah, I know it's tight, but I don't think the Lakers will do very well towards the end of the season. I know that they're really high right now, but it's all close 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all only a couple games apart. I think they'll start going down towards the end of the season because, injuries are going to happen, and we're not having a defensively good team. I think they'll drop down to somewhere like a 5 or 6, or honestly, I think they could probably even get the 4 seed, I think, if they play well.
Yeah. I mean, they do have a second season coach here, Darvin Ham. He's a head coach focusing on defense and teamwork and play fast-paced basketball. How do you think his defensive coaching abilities will affect the Lakers?
So I think he can do all he really can defensively, but if you don't have the players to have a defensively based team, I don't think you can do it. And you said before, teamwork, I don't think it's going to be as easy as it sounds because Luka Doncic is someone who always wants the ball in their hands, kind of like an ISO first guard. And LeBron, obviously, can pass the ball very well. But if you have someone like LeBron on your team, the kind of message is get the ball to LeBron. And now with Luka too, get it to either of them. So I don't think that part is going to be implemented. And if you don't have the defense to fill out a defensively focused roster, it's not going to be able to work. I think it's going to have to be fast-paced offense where it's just either playing an ISO or just giving it to LeBron down low or just trying to find an open guy because you got Austin Reeves who's able to shoot, D'Angelo Russell is able to shoot, even Rui Hachimura playing as a center. He's not a real center, so even he's going to be able to shoot, kind of like stretching the offense.
That is completely true, Chase. After the Luka trade, how do you think Darvin Ham's going to utilize LeBron's passing and Luka's creativity?
So I've actually been thinking about it a lot, and I think LeBron's going to play as like a 4 or even a 5 if he has to, because I think he's taller than Rui Hachimura, and he's obviously a better player. So I think LeBron as a center would honestly not be that bad of an idea. You have enough guards to do it anyway, and LeBron's the type of guy, if you can just get the center and just give it to him around the three-point line, he's obviously going to be a threat to shoot, but his passing ability is unmatched. So if you have runners around looking for a corner shot, or someone like Austin Reeves where he can get open, or D'Angelo Russell where he can get open, if you get him open, LeBron James can find him the ball anytime, and they'll be able to score, be a threat.
We do know LeBron could do it all, so, I mean, he could go up for them boards, pass it out, and even if Rui, if he plays at the forward, they could both be in the paint. They're both around 6'9", 6'8", so if they're both in the paint, I mean, I don't think anyone's stopping them from getting a board and kicking it back out and scoring some points. I have one more question from you. How do you think the Luka Doncic trade is going to affect LeBron James' play style?
As I kind of just said before, back with Anthony Davis was their big man, and you would have Rui playing at the 4. You could always have LeBron taking the ball up. But now since Anthony Davis is gone, they're going to need another big player, another like kind of someone to act as a center, and they don't have this. So you're going to have to make do with what they have. And LeBron James is a small forward, although he has played as a guard, center. He really can play anywhere. I think because of his versatility, LeBron James is going to have to play at the 5 or even a 4, which is going to limit his time on the ball, which is going to affect his play style because LeBron James likes to take the ball up because he has the ability to. But now since Luka's going to take it up, you're going to have LeBron James kind of playing the same role as Anthony Davis.
We asked some other people the same question. Let's go to the LeBron play style.
Without Anthony Davis, the top 3 defender in the league, that nerfs the Lakers defense a lot. Without him, the offensive presence and just the paint presence of the player, it will be a very big difference in the Lakers offense and defense.
Said LeBron's going to have to play at a position almost, so not having a true center is going to end up hurting them in the long run. Their defense is going to be a lot worse because Anthony Davis is one of the best defensive players in the league, and we all know Luka is not.
He can. I think he's a good player, but I think he'll need like those couple more years or just a little bit more development, that final push just to get him up to the standard of the NBA, because I think he would get exposed pretty quickly, especially in the paint.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Gabe Vincent. He provides a scoring punch and leadership off the bench, known for his defensive tenacity and playmaking ability. What are your thoughts on Gabe Vincent?
Yeah, so as you've been saying, it's kind of a common trend of all these players defensively, but I don't think defensively they are like as high as they should be, especially in a team that needs defenders. And I'm pretty sure Gabe Vincent played on the Heat before, and I remember watching him there, and I was impressed by him, but I don't think that he's really like a game changer. Like these guys you're saying on the bench, I don't think they have what it takes to go in there and make a big impact, especially if you're going to play a game in the playoffs, like a 7-game series, where it's going to come down to if your bench players and your depth is good enough.
I completely agree with you, Chase. Could we see the Gabe and Vandy graphic to compare some stats here? All right, as you could see, they're both normal bench players. Jared Vanderbilt has a pretty high rebounds per game, and they both have about an even field goal percentage. Their steals and assists are not that high. All right, next we're going to talk about Maxi Kleber. He's a versatile defender. All these bench players, they're very high defenders, it looks like, but they're just not a good defensive team. And he's important for rim protection and spacing the floor when needed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
And he was actually, if I'm not mistaken, a part of the Luka Doncic-Anthony Davis trade. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was. And I think he's just kind of an average player. I don't think he's too amazing. All these players are saying they're good, but they're not at that NBA six-man level. Because when you have six-mans, if you think in the past, popular six-mans, Lou Williams comes to my mind first. Tyler Hero a couple years back. These are players that you can put in the game or even start sometimes if there's an injury, and they can perform at the same level, if not even a little bit better. I think if you put any of these guys on the court, it's going to be a little bit of a drop-off, especially if you're playing a playoff game against a team like, for example, the Nuggets. You know, Jared Vanderbilt's a great player, but he's not going to be able to defend Jokic. And same thing with Gabe Vincent. He's not going to be able to handle anyone on their team.
I completely agree with that. Lastly, we have Jackson Hayes. He brings energy and athleticism and rebounding to the team. He provides a presence in the paint with his shot blocking and rim protection. What do you think he's going to do to affect this team?
I think all these bench players are going to play a role in the team, but I don't think they'll be doing too much. Everyone you've said, you've highlighted their defensive ability, which I agree with. I think they're pretty solid defenders, but they're not anywhere close to Anthony Davis, and they're not even good enough to start on a team that really needs defenders. And I think that goes to show the drop-off is going to be into the bench, because if you have someone who's that good at defense, then they're going to start immediately, but they're not that good at defense, and they're not good enough at anything else where they would start or play a pivotal role. So I think it's going to be a lot of the same 5 players on the court most times.
All right, can we have the Hayes Kleber graphic to compare some stats? As you could see, they're deep depth bench players here, as they're not averaging anything. Maybe a couple rebounds per game, a couple assists, a couple points here and there.
Yeah.
Not even averaging like half a steal per game. So I don't know here how this defense is going to be affected.
Yeah, the defense is they're gonna suffer a lot. You know, they don't have any starters that are exceptional defense. They don't have any player on the whole team that's exceptional defense. That guy was Anthony Davis, and you can say what you want about whether that trade was good or bad for the Lakers. I think it was good, but I think you need to go into free agency and sign a defensively minded player.
I completely agree with that. Thank you for listening to us today on NSN, talking about the Lakers. Don't go anywhere. Next on NSN, we have Chase and Bazile talking about the 2024 college football season. Thank you.
Welcome back to NSN. I'm Chase, joined here by Bazile, and today we're going to be talking about the college football season. So let's start with Florida State, probably one of the most confusing teams in the past couple of years. They went 13-0 last year, narrowly missing playoffs, but they ended up going 2-10 this year, which was a complete 180 from last year. Let's talk and let's see about how they did in the comparisons. Let's take a look at the FSU graphic.
In comparison, Florida State only had 2 notable wins this year, winning against Cal and Charleston Southern, while last year they had a lot of noticeable wins against LSU, Clemson, very strong football teams, and they weren't even ranked this year, losing almost literally 10 more games pretty much than they did last year.
Yeah, so I think the reason why Florida State got so much worse was because their quarterback, Jordan Travis, went to the NFL, and I think replacing him with DJ Uiagalelei really didn't help, as he's one of the worst quarterbacks probably in college football history at this point. Let's talk about the Heisman now, as this is something that's been very controversial, and what's notable was two candidates were not quarterbacks. The 2 candidates we all thought were going to win, one of those 2. What do you think about that? Is that something that the NFL should try, where they're giving more love to this non-quarterbacks?
I think the NFL should try that, such as Saquon Barkley breaking the rushing record this year. I think, personally, I don't think he should have won MVP this year, but even then, you could still make an argument for other positions at least being in MVP talks without them being excluded out of the top 3 of only quarterbacks. And I think what college football is doing, I think they're doing a really good job of involving skill positions instead of just focusing it on quarterbacks.
Yeah, I completely agree. The two candidates were Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty. So if you look here, you can see that there's interceptions in Travis Hunter's category, and that's because he played wide receiver and cornerback this season. But I've always understood that I don't think snaps are stat. I think if you talk about who's the more valuable player to their team, it's Ashton Genty. Boise State were a playoff team, and we'd probably be talking about UNLV right now if Ashton Genty wasn't on the team. I think Travis Hunter is very valuable, but I don't think he is the most valuable player in college football.
I personally have to disagree. I think Travis Hunter should still have won the Heisman over Ashton Genty. Even though he wasn't doing some crazy stats on both sides of the ball, while still being able to do what he was doing, an amazing cornerback in the college football league, still one of the best receivers or the best receiver. Well, compared to Ashton Genty, obviously the best running back in the league, but he was in a little bit of a weaker conference compared to Travis. You know, he still had a really good season. I'm not trying to diminish that at all, but I still personally think Travis Hunter should have won it with all the historic stuff while still being the first two-way player to ever put these stats up.
We asked a couple more people who they thought should have won the Heisman, and let's go see what they think.
Ashton Genty had a great year. He had career highs, and he did a lot to help out his team.
I think that's obvious. If it's not Travis Hunter, it has to be Ashton Genty, as he had record-breaking all-time numbers up with Barry Sanders and all the greats.
Speaking of Travis Hunter, let's talk about his team, Colorado. So Colorado finished, I think, was 4-8 last year, not making a bowl game, not making anything, and no one thought they'd be good this year. But they turned it around. They went 9-4, led by Deion Sanders, their coach, Shedeur Sanders, who is a top 2 overall pick projection, and Travis Hunter. So let's take a look more into Shedeur Sanders, as many people think he could be the number 1 pick. Let's take a look at the number 1 pick graphic.
You can see Shedeur Sanders is 20th in quarterback rating, and his 2024 stats is around 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and he was 8th in Heisman voting. He's very explosive player compared to Cam Ward, who was 2nd in quarterback rating, 4,300 passing yards, 39 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and he was 4th in Heisman voting. I personally think Shedeur Sanders should be the number 1 pick, still being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, having pretty good stats, and obviously he had a good team to pass to and everything, but he was a pretty solid player. But I think with Cam Ward, that him just being so quiet and not doing too much in the pocket, I think that's going to affect him if he goes to a real not a good team where that's contending right now, especially if they don't have a good O-line.
As a Titans fan, I think about this a lot, and I think Shedeur Sanders is a more NFL-ready quarterback, but I think Cam Ward would be better to build a dynasty around. If you just get a couple good linemen around them, I think he'd be a bit better, if not much better, than Shedeur Sanders. We'll be talking about both of them a lot, though, in the future. And let's talk about the first 12-team playoff now, because as you're talking about the Heisman, Boise State would not be in there if it wasn't. So all of the Power 4 schools got an automatic bid, whoever won their conference, and then one Group of 5 school. This year it went to Mountain West in Boise State. So let's talk about how there's a lot more teams now, so you could lose a couple more games and still make it. Yep, a lot more upsets. And there wasn't any upsets this year because there was a lot of home field advantage. Yeah. But the biggest part of it was probably SMU and Alabama. SMU got blown out in the first round, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a tough game to watch, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, many people thought Alabama should have been in. And I personally stand that SMU should have been in, but let's take a look at the SMU-Alabama graphic.
And Alabama went 9-3 during the regular season, 5th strength of schedule. Their notable wins were against Georgia, South Carolina, Missouri. And compared to SMU, who went 11-2, 33rd strength of schedule, notable wins going against Duke, Louisville, and notable losses against Penn State, getting just not a very good game.
Yeah, so Bazile, I ask you this question. Do you think that the committee should be more harsh on strength of schedule because Alabama did lose an extra game, and then they obviously lost their bowl game, but they do lose an extra regular season game, and that was because they had the 5th strength of schedule, so they were playing the hardest teams every week compared to SMU, who were pretty much playing a cakewalk schedule for most of the season.
I think they should go over that. with a lot of with a lot of just teams or leagues in general, they should go off of how strong their schedule was. Because if you have a weak schedule, there's a really good chance you're not even meant to be where you are. If it's in like one of the first seed or second seed, just in the playoffs in general. If you have one of these strongest schedules, you shouldn't be there, or you should at least be able to take it in review. If they got close wins or if it was close losses, just taking that stuff into play.
I think the committee are going to be a lot harder on strength of schedule this next coming season. And talking about this next coming season, let's talk about the 2025 season preview. So my favorite to win the national championship this year is Texas. I think having Arch Manning now going to be the number one quarterback with the weapons they already have is just going to make for a lot of trouble for other teams. Notable options for a national championship pick would be a team like Notre Dame or Ohio State. Who do you think will win this year?
I personally think it would be Texas, too. They're already one of the strongest teams this past season, and they've still been pretty solid the past couple of years. And I think this year they really will take a step up with Arch Manning finally taking that one leap to be the starting quarterback, and I think they already had good weapons. I think they're going to really break out this year.
Yeah, we asked a few more people who they thought would win the 2025 national championship. Let's go see what they think.
I mean, I think Ohio State's having a great year. You know, their team's really all around and just destroying everybody.
I'm going to have to go Notre Dame on this one, as they have a decently young team, and although their quarterback is leaving, they have pretty good recruiting. So.
And as we were talking about next season already, let's talk about players that could have a breakout year. I have a couple in mind, but let's start with two of probably the most known players that could potentially have a breakout year. We have quarterback DJ Lagway from Florida and quarterback Sam Levitt from Arizona State. Let's take a look at the breakout season graphic.
You can see DJ Lagway was third in the 2025 quarterback, incoming sophomore. He had around 2,000 yards, 12 touchdown to 9 interception ratio, and 69th in quarterback rating, compared to Sam Levitt, who was first this year in the quarterback. He's an incoming sophomore, almost 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns to 6 interceptions ratio, and he was 9th in quarterback rating.
So, personally, I would prefer to have Sam Levitt. We saw what he did in the playoffs against Texas. That was the only game that most people watched of Arizona, so they have a very good feeling in mind about him. Out of those two, DJ Lagway and Sam Levitt, who would you pick?
I personally would pick Sam Levitt. His stats already show that he can be one of the best quarterbacks. And you could see if in that Texas game, he was looking pretty good. And I think if he can keep it going, he could definitely be up there for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I completely agree. Some other notable names would be Colin Simmons from Texas, Jacoby Lane from USC, and then my favorite outside of those top two, Cam Coleman, wide receiver from Auburn. That's all we have today. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Chris Jordan and Jack Romelin will be talking to you about this past Super Bowl.
Hello and welcome back to NSN. It is me, Chris Jordan.
And Jack Romlin.
So today we're going to talk about the 2025 Super Bowl. So to begin the topic, the Eagles are winning at half 24-0. What do you think the Chiefs could have done better in the start of the game?
I think that the Chiefs could have stopped the Eagles' D-line because every play Patrick Mahomes couldn't do anything with it because he wouldn't even have any time in the pocket if he had to throw. There was a time where he had like a 30-yard sack. The running, they couldn't really run the ball because the Eagles' defense would just stop him every time.
Yeah, I agree. Their rusher only got like 9 yards the whole game. So the end of the game was 40-22, and the Eagles won Super Bowl 59. Can we get the final score graphic? So with the Eagles winning 40-22, what do you think the Chiefs could have done better in the second half to kind of rebound after 24-0?
I think that I don't really think there was much that they can do because even though the score makes it look like it was closer than it actually is, because in the game they just it was like they couldn't score points the entire first half. In the second half they actually started scoring points, but by that time they were already blown out. So I don't think there was really anything they could have done. Maybe they could have blocked did better on defense to not let them get that many points, but other than that, I don't think anything they could have done.
The Eagles controlled this game start to finish, and they never really let go of the lead. What do you think the Eagles did to prepare for the game?
I think that they watched film on the Chiefs and read and they practiced off what they thought Patrick Mahomes would do on each play. So I think that maybe that they prepared for how he would play in the pocket during pass plays, and that's I think why that he couldn't do anything, because they read off what he did every time.
So now we're talking about the best stats. The best passing leader was Jalen Hurts. He had a completion. He had 17 out of 22 passes completed, and had 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. What do you think Jalen Hurts did good?
I think Jalen Hurts did really good in the Super Bowl. If Jalen Hurts didn't really do nothing in the Super Bowl, I think it would have been way closer than it actually was. I think Jalen Hurts helped the Eagles a lot to win the Super Bowl.
It was a pretty slow day for the running game for both teams, but Saquon Barkley had 25 carries and only 57 yards. What do you think Saquon Barkley could have done better?
I think maybe I don't really think he could have done better, because Kansas City's run defense isn't bad, but it's also not that good. So I think maybe he could have read the defense better, but I think he did pretty good.
Do you think it was more Saquon's fault or the line's fault?
I mean, Saquon, during the past season, he was really good. He actually broke the rushing record. I think it may have been the offensive line's fault, because Saquon Barkley usually has a lot more rushing yards than that, but during the Super Bowl, he didn't really have that much rushing yards.
Josh Sweat had a crazy game on defense. I think he had can you get the Josh Sweat graphic? He had 2.5 total sacks, 6 tackles, and 3 QB pressures. What do you think the Chiefs could have done to block him? They couldn't really do anything against him.
I think that they should have doubled him up. Maybe have the tackle and the tight end, block him out of there, so that Patrick Mahomes has more time to recover. He was really good during the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, I think, was really intimidated by him. I think that's why he did really good. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think Josh Sweat really just controlled the deal, and I think he was a major reason of why they won, because all the pressures they were able to put on him. If you were the Eagles coach, if you're winning 24-0, what have you told your team in the locker room?
I think that I would have told my team to keep the pressure, don't give up. And I think that's what they did, because they kept on applying pressure. They only got 20 points in the second half, while they each got 20 points, I think, in the second half. And they let up on defense a bit, but I think that they did really good after half.
I think for me, I just tell them the game's still 0-0. Keep kind of pushing and don't let go of the lead, because you never want to let go of the lead. And can we get the Zach Bond graphic? I think when Zach Bond got that pick against in their own 10-yard line, I think that's really when the game turned and when everyone knew the Eagles won. Zach Bond had 7 total tackles, 4 assisted tackles, and one interception the whole game. Do you think Zach Bond is one of the best linebackers in the league?
I think he's a really good linebacker, but I don't think he's the best linebacker in the league, because I think he's the best linebacker on the Eagles team, because he helped the team a lot, but if we were to rank him in all linebackers in the league, I think I would put him at a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, I'd probably put him. I mean, with Fred Warner and some other guys, I think he was top 3 or top 5. I'd definitely see him. I do agree with that. If you were the Chiefs coach and you were down 24-0 at halftime, what would you tell your team? If you needed to bounce back?
I would have said that we shouldn't give up, and that even though it may look far away from a win, I think that they should keep pushing, and I think that we would change the game plan up, because the game plan before half wasn't really working, because at halftime it was 24-0, so I think that we should have changed up the game plan.
I think I would just tell them that the score, it's 0-0, and just come out there with a new mindset and just try to do your best. I think they already knew the game was over, but still just keep doing your best. We interviewed some people on what the Eagles did good to beat the Chiefs, so
Containing Patrick Mahomes, they stopped the run game for him completely. If you look back at the videos, you can see the tapes. Mahomes loves to run through the middle. They stopped that completely. Anytime he tried to, they baited him, got it. They barely even blitzed all game. Their rushing was amazing. So, yeah.
I think they played hard. I think they pass rushed the offense a lot, and they went out and scored. They tried their hardest.
All right, thank you, Roger, for your time today.
No problem.
Now we're gonna talk about the Super Bowl MVP. Who do you think would have won if the Eagles didn't win like another team? Who do you think would have won?
I think that it would have been Patrick Mahomes because the NFL is usually biased toward quarterbacks. Even if the running back or wide receiver did really, really good, I think they're still going to give it to the quarterback because that's like the captain of the team. And if the Eagles won, if the Chiefs won, I think that Patrick Mahomes would have got the MVP.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think I thought Xavier Worthy could have won it because he did a great job and he kind of carried the team at the end when everyone was down. Can we get the Jalen Hurts graphic? So Jalen Hurts was the best passer, and he won the Super Bowl MVP. He had 3 total touchdowns with 1 rush touchdown. He had 293 total yards. He had a passing percentage of 77% and had a QBR of 75.4. Do you think that these stats are good for Super Bowl MVP?
I do think that these stats are really good for Super Bowl MVP. I think that 17 and 22 or 77% completion rate is really good. 3 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. It's not bad, but it's not that good. I think that 200 something yards is really good for just the Super Bowl, especially when you're playing the best team.
We interviewed some people on the topic of Jalen Hurts winning Super Bowl MVP. Is he top 5? So we're going to interview.
No, not at all. Not at all. Me personally, I still have Joe Burrow. I still have. Let's see. I still have Joe Burrow. I still have Patrick Mahomes. I still have Lamar Jackson. I still have Josh Allen. Even some still other he might be barely clinching top 5 quarterbacks wise in the league. Still an amazing player, but he has a little bit to go passing wise.
Alright, so what did you think?
I say even better. I think he's top 3. I think he is definitely up there with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, but certainly not better than them.
So, do you think Jalen Hurts is in top 5 after winning the Super Bowl MVP?
I do think he is top 5 because he stopped the Chiefs from winning a Super Bowl. The Chiefs had a really good season before the Super Bowl. I think they only lost 2 times, 3 times, and Jalen Hurts led his team to a win in the Super Bowl, and I do think he is a top 5. I think he might be 1 or 2 because he led the Eagles from in a wild card last year to a Super Bowl win this year. And I think that's what made him top 5.
I think he's top 3 or top 4 because I think he just played great this season, and I think Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, I think they're all better than him. I think he's just under them, and I think that in a couple years, if maybe he can push the top 3, top 2. All right. So the best player on the Eagles is obviously Jalen Hurts. He played a great game and that great pass to Saquon Barkley. So what do you think Jalen Hurts did good at during the game?
I think he did really good passing wise because he went 77% completion rate. He had 3 touchdowns passing, 200-something yards. And I think that's what he did best. I don't think he really did that much rushing, but he did really good passing.
Yeah, with the tush push, he got that one kind of cheeky touchdown, which people say they don't think it's a good play. What the Eagles did best, I think the defense really carried them. I mean, they went from 22nd the best defense in the league to the best defense in the league, number one. So I think that's what they did go on defense. Who do you think on the defense did the best?
I think Zach Bond did good. I think Cooper DeJean did good.
Mhm.
His interception,
On his birthday.
his pick six on his birthday was really nice. I think their defense went up a lot to like the best defense.
Mhm.
I think they really improved it, and that I think they're gonna have the best defense for a few years.
I agree with that. Can we get the Saquon Barkley graphic? Many people thought that Saquon Barkley would be like the Super Bowl MVP or just a great player, but he didn't really do anything the whole game. He had no touchdowns. He only had 57 rushing yards and averaged 2.3 yards per play. Saquon Barkley, did you think he was going to win Super Bowl MVP?
No, I did not think he was going to win Super Bowl MVP. He did really underperform during the Super Bowl, only 57 yards. That's not a lot for 25 carries. 2.3 yards per run, that's not good because you need at least 3 yards every play to get a first down if you're rushing. I think he did really poorly during the Super Bowl, but his past season showed that he could be a top 5 running back.
Yeah, I think he's the best running back because he had 2,000 yards. And the game before the Super Bowl, he had, I think, 3 touchdowns and like 200 yards, something like that. So I think he was underperforming. I think that's who I would pick for Super Bowl MVP. So don't go anywhere because right after this short break, we'll be back to talk about the upcoming NFL draft.
Welcome back to NSN. I'm Jack Romlin, and this is Chris Jordan, and we're going to talk about the NFL draft. To start off, we're going to go with the draft order. So the draft order goes the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Patriots, and the Jaguars. Who do you think that they're all going to take first round?
I think the Titans first round. I think they're going to take Cam Ward. He's just a really good player, and like they need a quarterback right now. The Browns, they signed Kenny Pickett in the offseason, and I think that they're going to go for wide receiver, so I think Travis Hunter would probably be their best bet. The Giants need everything, so I think what they're probably going to do is draft Shedeur Sanders, and that's going to set him back. I don't think he's going to be good in the NFL. And then the Patriots need a wide receiver, so they're going to get Terrio McMillan. And the Jaguars needed some defensive help, so they're going to get Will Johnson, a Michigan cornerback.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Titans need a QB. The Browns need a receiver. Giants also need a QB. Last year, they just let Daniel Jones go, so now they don't have a QB. The Patriots, they have a QB. They drafted one last year. They need a wide receiver like Terrio McMillan. And the Jaguars need Will Johnson because they need some defensive help. Can we have the Jaguars graphic? So, like, you can see that Will Johnson would be a really good pick for the Jaguars because he has really good stats as a cornerback, and I think that he can help the team a lot.
Yeah, I think he did a lot for Michigan last year. He had 2 pick sixes, which helped them win, even though they didn't win a lot of games. But the Jaguars, I think, lost many other games by like 1 score. So if their defense can hold the teams to less points, I think they could be a good team.
Well, speaking of the draft order, we have a couple people and their thoughts.
I think that the first 5 draft picks, Titans at first, I think that they're looking for a quarterback, so I think they'll pick up Shedeur Sanders. I think the Browns, next up, they'll pick up Cam Ward. There's 2 teams that are desperately needing a quarterback. And then that would leave us with Travis Hunter as the Giants. So, yeah, I think that those will be the first 3. And I think that definitely what we lack in this draft class is definitely a good quarterback that has a lot of potential. I mean, nothing against Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, but I feel like there could definitely be a quarterback that could be better, like Arch Manning next year in the upcoming draft.
I see Abdul Carter going first. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. Mason Graham might sneak in there at defensive tackle, but that's about it.
Welcome back. Who do you think the top 5 teams need?
I think the Titans are personally going to grab either quarterback, wide receiver, or offensive tackle. The Browns need a defensive end, a quarterback, or offensive tackle. I think the Giants need a QB, offensive tackle, and offensive guard. And Patriots need an offensive tackle, wide receiver, defensive end, The Jaguars' top five is probably going to be cornerback, safety, and a wide receiver. I think that all these teams could really benefit off of any defensive help because they all lost a lot of games by a lot of points. Most of them do need some defensive help. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think that they could all use some defensive help. They all definitely lost to a lot of teams by a lot of points because their defense isn't really that good. The Titans, I think their offense is okay, but their defense does need a lot of help. The Browns, I think they have a okay offense, okay defense, but overall they're not like great. I think the Giants need to get a quarterback, get a better offensive line, because every time they can't block and the QB just gets sacked. He can't do anything. Can we have the Patriots graphic? So, like, the Patriots need, like, a offensive tackle, wide receiver, because Drake May needs someone to throw to. Like, they went 4-13 last year, and they don't have any wide receivers. So, if they get a wide receiver, I think that they can do better as a team. And the Jaguars, they definitely need some defensive help. Like, they definitely need a cornerback. They need a safety. They need inside linebacker.
Yeah, I think the Patriots, I think they can really benefit off of the offensive line because last year we saw Saquon Barkley, and to the year before he didn't have any yards. He kept getting injured, and he had a bad line. But then when he went to the Eagles, he got 2,000 yards in one season, and because that offensive line is great. So I think what they should go for is possibly a good offensive tackle to boost their line.
Yeah. So that's what the top 5 team needs, and we asked this around to see if people thought what we thought.
I think they're going to pick Travis Hunter from Colorado, and that's because I feel like we can kind of work with our surroundings in the NFL for a quarterback position. I feel like Matt Stafford, if we can get that trade, that would be a really good pickup. I feel like he's still got it in him at age 37, still a little old, but, I mean, he brought the Rams to a Super Bowl. Why can't he bring us to one?
I think they probably go Shedeur Sanders at 3 just because they need a quarterback and he can handle the New York media.
Welcome back. So the Tennessee Titans, they obviously need Cam Ward. He's a great QB, but why do you think they need him?
I think they need him because they struggle with the quarterback. I don't think Bill Levis is really good. I think that they could possibly wait a year until next year because next year is going to have a better QB class. But if they want to go for a guy this year and possibly help him with offensive line or a wide receiver, I think they could definitely do that. And I think Cam Ward is the overall great quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. Can I have the Titans pick graphic? So they have the first round draft pick. They went 3-14 last year. I think Cam Ward would be a great addition to their team. As you can see, his total yards was 4,000 in his last year. He had 39 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, which is really good. And he had a 67% completion rate over the year. So let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. They have the second draft pick. They're probably going to take Travis Hunter because he can play both sides of the ball. He's a cornerback and he's a wide receiver. I think he has better stats as a cornerback than a wide receiver. I think he's okay at wide receiver, but I think he's pretty good at cornerback. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that if he tries to go for both positions, try to play both ways, I think he's going to get injured way early in the season, and he's not going to do any good for the team. I think if they could, it would be more useful for them to use him as a wide receiver or a cornerback, but I think it would be better for them to use him as a wide receiver because they don't really have any wide receivers, and their defense is all right.
Can we have the Browns pick graphic, please? So, as a cornerback, he had 11 assisted tackles, 11 forced incompletions, which is really good. He had 4 interceptions, 35 total tackles, and 1 forced fumbled. And as a wide receiver, he has 1,000 yards, 96 receptions. He has 13.1 yards per reception, which is a first down almost every time. He has 15 touchdowns, and his longest reception was 58 yards.
Yeah, I think he had far better defensive stats and offensive stats, and I don't think the Cleveland Browns really have anyone on offense except for David Njoku and Nick Chubb, who I don't think is going to last another year because he's been going in out and year out with ACL tears and breaking everything.
Yeah. So the New York Giants are the third round draft pick. They're probably going to take Shedeur Sanders because that's the second best QB they can probably take. They let go of their QB last year. They need a new one, and they also need a new O-line to block for that QB. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they need a quarterback, and I think they could possibly get some linemen later in the draft. I personally think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be a bust. I don't think he's going to do the team any good. But other than that, yeah, I think that's why they're going to get him.
Could we have the Giants pick graphic, please? So I feel like he's going to be the steal of the draft because he had a 74% completion rate last year. He had 4,000 yards, almost as much as Cam Ward. He had 37 touchdowns, which is almost as much as Cam Ward. He had 10 interceptions. It's a little bit more than Cam Ward, but it's still okay. And then he had 353 completions, which is a lot. They went 3-14 last year, and I think that Shedeur Sanders could help him do better than that.
Yeah, I think Shedeur Sanders did a pretty good job of helping the Colorado Buffaloes to possibly make the playoffs, but they didn't. On the Giants, I don't think, again, he's not going to do anything good for him. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a bust, but that's it.
Yeah. After this break, we're going to talk about last week's match day with Keanu Kamara and Chase Swarzinski.
Hello and welcome back to the National Sports Network. I'm Keanu Kamara and I'm here with Chase Swarzinski. Today we're going to take a look at last week's Premier League match days and final scores.
Thank you for having me, Keanu. This week was full of joy and shutouts, but also disappointment.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at Nottingham Forest's historic victory over Brighton. Can we please see the score, please? So as we can see, Nottingham Forest have beat Brighton 7-0. That's a shutout. Chris Wood scored a hat trick, and Morgan Gibbs had assisted and scored one. What do you think about this game?
I mean, if you watch the game, it's pretty obvious. It wasn't even close. I'm pretty sure it was like 3-0 within the first half even. And I think I shut the game off by like the 50th minute. Like, once I knew kind of what was going to happen. It was just, there's nothing from Brighton, and it's so unlike them to play like that. But Nottingham Forest have been really good this season, so I do credit that.
Yeah, I completely agree. If we take a look, Wood scored his goals in the 32nd, 64th, and a penalty in the 69th minute. And Gibbs White had 2 assists and 1 goal that game. So that's like, for a hat trick against Brighton, like Brighton were like top 3 during this time, and then they just dropped down. Nottingham Forest are also now in the top 3 when like 2 seasons ago they were in the championship and they came up. So what do you think about Nottingham Forest being in the top 3?
I mean, right now, yeah, they're in a Champions League spot, and it was really unexpected. In the beginning of the year, I thought they were going to get relegated, but they proved me wrong, and it's really impressive to see what they did. I actually have played a game at Nottingham Forest training ground, so I do have a little bit of like a personal connection to it when I was over in England, and it's just really exciting for me to see what they can do, and I'm really proud of them.
Now let's take a look at Arsenal's dominant win against Manchester City. Can we see the score, please? So as you can see, Arsenal won 5-1 against Manchester City at home. What are your thoughts on this game, Chase?
I watched this game also, and I think the score was really an overstatement of how the game was. I thought it was a lot closer in terms of the actual game. I think maybe something like a 1 or 2 goal win for Arsenal would be fair. I think Arsenal were the better team, but I don't think that the score should have been 5-1. I think that the score doesn't justify how the game actually went for Manchester City.
Yeah. Let's actually talk about Manchester City. So, two in a row champions. So, what do you think? Like, do you think they have a chance to win? They're third right now. Liverpool are taking it away. Do you think City could have a chance?
No. To win the league? Nah. Champions League, I think they'll probably make it number 4 because as of time right now, I'm pretty sure they're number 4 behind Liverpool, Arsenal, and Forest. But there's too big of a gap for Liverpool to anyone to catch up with them. And I think it's just a matter of time before we see that they officially confirm themselves as champions. There's not a lot of games left, and I think mathematically within the next few weeks, Liverpool will win the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. So now let's talk about Chelsea's comeback victory over West Ham United. Can we see the score, please? So as we can see, Chelsea had won 2-1. Really head-to-head game. Went down to like the last couple minutes. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so Chelsea is one of the best teams in the league, and I like the way they play. And the games are like always really close when they play. It's always like entertaining, especially watching them play against a team like Tottenham, who I watch all the time. Chelsea, my favorite player in the league probably is Cole Palmer, so it's really fun to watch. And I think they're just really good, and it doesn't matter how they win. They did end up winning the game.
So let's take a look at Liverpool's away win against AFC Bournemouth. Can we see the score, please? So Liverpool won 2-0. It's not a shocker. It's Liverpool. They're at the top of the table with like an 8-point gap between Liverpool and Arsenal. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I think that was probably one of the biggest games of the season for Liverpool, as it widened their gap on the table. And Bournemouth, it's a tough loss, but obviously they're not supposed to win that game. As a team is pushing for Europe, it's going to be a setback, but I think they'll probably end up making it to the Conference League. If they're lucky, I don't think they'll do any higher than that. But I think they have been really good this season. But Liverpool are just miles ahead of everyone else.
Yeah. Do you think Salah will get Player of the Season, and if so, why?
Yeah, I think Premier League Player of the Season for sure. I wouldn't say Ballon d'Or or anything like that. But I think if you look at the stats, goals, assists, all of that, and if you actually watch the games, you would agree and say Salah is the best player. And you see him do it in Champions League too, even if you don't just watch the Premier League. He is 10 times the player anyone else is right now. And it's great to see that he made a comeback from the last couple of years, which has been a downfall.
Yeah, he has. Based on how Liverpool is playing, do you think they have secured the title?
Yeah, I think there's 10, maybe even less games than that in the season. And I think they only really need 2 or 3 more wins to solidify it. And with some of the teams they're playing now, all the cup competitions are done. They're out of the Champions League. They've just lost in the Carabao Cup final. I'm pretty sure they just have the FA Cup, even if they're still in that, which I'm not sure. So all the focus is going to be on the Premier League. And so they'll be able to play with their best 11 every single week, which they weren't able to do before. So I think, yes, they'd secure it.
I agreed. So we asked a few people the same question. Let's send it to the hallway to see what Lucas and Noah have to say.
I believe Mohamed Salah can become the player of the season of the Premier League because he has 25 goals, which he is leading, and he also is leading in assists. He has 16 of them. And with the Fantasy Premier League team, he has been consistently getting double digits.
I think he could. With 25 goals and 16 assists, I would say, like, if you look at the people who won, like, maybe 4 seasons ago, like, Aguero was one of them for sure. I would say, like, you know, his best season, I think he scored, like, 28 and, like, 12 assists. It was a really good year for him, and I feel like that really mirrors Salah's performance so far. And I feel like ever since they got him from AS Roma, he's just really captivated and really brought up this Liverpool team.
Next, we're going to talk about Everton's resounding victory over Leicester City. Can we see the score, please? As we can see, Everton won 4-0 against Leicester at home. What are your thoughts on this game?
I watched the game and I was really kind of just shocked about how Leicester played. I think they were really poor. Everton isn't the greatest team like in the world. I have a bit of a bias for them because I also did play at their training ground against their academy, and they're very, very good team, but they don't usually get it done. That's why they're always in the mid-table. And Leicester losing a game that's kind of needed to stay up against a mid-table team isn't going to do them any favors.
Yeah, I mean, like Leicester 3 seasons ago, I think they were Premier League champions. Then last season they got relegated. They were in the championship. Then they came up. Now they're 18th. so they're in relegation zone with 17 points, and the team outside relegation zone is Wolves with 26. Do you think that Leicester have a chance to get out of relegation zone?
I don't think they have any chance at all. I think that there's not enough games to make it happen, and I don't think they have the team to make it happen either. I think that all three teams that came up last season, Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester, will go straight back down, and that's how it was last year. I think the league is just becoming far more too competitive for these championship teams to hold. You have 15th place teams like Tottenham, Manchester United, who are playing in Europe this season. It just shows how competitive the league is, and that teams that come up from the championship can't handle it.
I mean, yeah, talking about like Tottenham and United, seeing them mid-table, close to the bottom, really a shocker because they're part of the Big Six. Like United, they won 3-0 this week. I think against Tottenham. I think they played Tottenham this week. So yeah. Well, as much as I want to talk about the Premier League, we unfortunately have to end our segment. Stay tuned for the next segment about some Major League Baseball changes and the Yankees off-season with RJ and Jack.
Welcome to the National Sports Network. I'm RJ Ferraro, and joining me today is Jack Romlin. Today's topic will be about the interesting offseason New York Yankees changes, including the MLB added.
Thank you for having me on your segment today, RJ. This Yankees offseason was a surprising one, and so were the changes.
Yes, it very much was. Can I have the MVP graphic?
So the Yankees have 4 MVPs on the team currently. What do you think about that?
I think it's really good. I think that we're going to have a really powerful offense with these players. Defense might get a little better from how these players have played over the last few years, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be really good.
Okay. In the beginning of the offseason, they let go Anthony Rizzo, of their former first baseman. What do you think about that?
No, it sucked to see him go, but I'm pretty sure it was a good thing he didn't play that well over the World Series and the playoffs, but I'm pretty sure it was a better deal than keeping him.
Yeah. They also let go of their former second baseman. How do you feel about that?
He was a good offensive, not really good defensive player. He was good on and off the field, but not really on defense. But I'm pretty sure it was a good thing because now we have Jazz Chisholm taking his spot, and he's a really good second baseman. Can I have the moving on graphic? So the Yankees didn't re-sign Anthony Rizzo and Gleyber Torres over this offseason, but they did re-sign right-handed pitcher Tim Hill and starting pitcher Garrett Cole. What do you think about that?
I think Garrett Cole did good last year, as well as Tim Hill. Because if they didn't do good last year, why would they get re-signed? But I think they did really good pitching. I don't think they let up a lot of runs.
I've talked to some people in the hallway about this topic. Let's see what they had to say about it.
I think the Yankees have built a really good lineup. I'm curious to see if Cody Bellinger can go back to his MVP form. And if he does, well, that'll be a really interesting season. I think letting go of Juan Soto was tough, but I think they bounced back well. They signed Max Fried, Cody Bellinger, and a lot of others. So I think the offseason started off slow, and then they turned it around and ended up being good.
So even though we had some new MVPs and really good players of the MVPs, how do you think we will hit?
I think we'll hit good. I know Aaron Judge is a really good hitter. I think he broke the home run record last season, I think. Yeah, I think they'll do really good hitting because how would they be MVPs if they can't hit?
True. Can I have the best free agency graphic? So, you can see over the offseason, we have acquired some really good players, including pitchers and offensive, defensive players like Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, Max Fried, and Devin Williams. How do you think about that offseason our team would play?
I think our team will play good because we signed really good players. We re-signed players that won. We just re-signed a lefty reliever, Tim Hill. We re-signed Garrett Cole. He was a Cy Award winner in 2023. I think we'll do really good this year.
With our add-ons, with our new first baseman, our new center fielder, how do you think our defense in the infield and the outfield would play?
I think we'll do pretty good. I don't think our infield was as strong last year. I think that they'll be better this year.
With the add-ons of Max Fried, who is a really, really good pitcher, and Devin Williams, who's a really good reliever, how do you think our pitching and our bullpen would do this off?
I think they'll do really good. I know that you said Fred was really good, and we have a lot. We just re-signed a lot of good pitchers, so I think that will do really good during bullpen.
All right. Can I have the moving up graphic, please? All right. So we can see that we moved some players around and we also moved some players up, like Jason Dominguez. We moved him up from AAA. He was a really, really good player there and during the major leagues. How do you think about moving him up would improve our offense and defense, or would decrease it?
I think he did really good in the minor leagues, and I think that he'll help the team in the majors.
All right. With the new placements, with Jazz Chisholm going from third to second, Aaron Judge going from center to right, do you think those adjustments would help us with stopping offenses more or less?
I think that they'll help us more because I think Aaron Judge would do better in right field than center field. He wasn't really the fastest guy in the outfield, and I think if we've put a faster guy in the center field, because that's what they're supposed to do, run and get all the balls, I think that the outfield would be really good. And moving all the players around in the infield, I think, will help us a lot.
All right. With also the hitting order, with Anthony Wolpe going from 8th to projected to go first from this past World Series, how do you think our offense would play?
I think they'll do good. I think that we'll get a lot of hits. I think that we'll score a lot of runs. But I think that we will do really good offensively.
Can I have the spring training graphic, please? So if we can see over spring training, people have moved up to see what they can contest on the field and the schedule and where they have now been located. How do you think that's going to add up to see if players are ready or not ready?
I think that will show if players are ready or not ready, because if you can never really tell if they're ready or not ready until you put them in in-game scenarios. So I think spring training's just for that, seeing who's ready for the majors, who's ready for who won't be ready for another year, another 2 years, all that. But I think spring training will be really good for this team.
All right. With the Yankees now starting with spring training and seeing how they're playing with the new add-ons and the new players coming in, how do you think that would help us with leading into the regular season and making us better?
I think that will make us better in the regular season because all those add-ons will help us. We add on people to help us, not to hurt us,
Yeah. We talked to some people in the hallway. Let's see what they had to say about this topic.
My prediction is they're going to have a lot of different lineups because they have a really balanced lineup. They can go righty-lefty, righty-lefty, or lefty-righty. They have a lot of balance. My thoughts are Spencer Jones, top prospect. He's looking really good. The Martian, Jason Dominguez, too. I think he's looking great. And also the veterans like Paul Goldschmidt they brought in is looking pretty good.
So, where we play, right? We play in Florida. Would that, change the way how we play with the cold weather in New York and the warm weather in Florida?
No, I mean the climate's different because we up here it's colder. It's we got used to the cold, but when it's hot, we're gonna be I think we're gonna be sweating a lot. I don't think we're really gonna be prepared for it.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to our podcast about the different sports topic. But unfortunately, this is the end of it. Thank you guys for watching, and stay notified every time a new video comes out on the National Sports Network.